All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Today we're looking at a pretty wild transformation. We're exploring how chaotic, messy, physical construction waste is literally being transformed into high-margin, audit-proof data. We'll be breaking down 905 Wood's Digital Refinery. It's essentially what they call a Sentient Bridge, a workflow bridge between raw debris and the ultra-strict, high-purity requirements of modern trade and biocarbon markets.
Now, look at this number, 3,189,313. That is the exact tonnage of municipal solid waste, or MSW, shipped across the border from Ontario, Canada, directly into U.S. Michigan landfills in fiscal year 2025 alone. To put that into a broader perspective, Michigan actually imports about 3.46 million tons of trash from Ontario annually. That is a staggering 14.35% of all waste disposed of in Michigan landfills. And right now, with all the headline news out of Washington and Ontario, talks involving Donald Trump, Doug Ford, and intense debates over USMCA and CUSMA tariffs, moving that much physical material across an international border carries absolutely immense logistical and regulatory exposure.
So, how do you handle that? Well, this quote right here hits the nail on the head. There are two companies sharing one truck. One moves wood, the other manufactures verified data. This is the core paradox we're unpacking today. The absolute genius of 905 Wood is that they are essentially that second company just wearing the first company's clothes. They're using the physical wood haul as their literal customer acquisition cost to build an incredibly valuable DMRV, or Digital Measurement Reporting and Verification Data Record.
So here's how we're going to break down this whole operation. 1. The corridor threat. 2. The digital shift. 3. The AI workflow. 4. Industrial clarity. 5. The hardware roadmap. And finally, 6. The data catalog.
Okay, starting with Section 1, the corridor threat, and navigating those cross-border risks. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Look at the claim discipline on display here. For a while, there was this unverified industry myth floating around about an 812% return on investment based on some phantom 40% transshipment penalty. Well, 905 Wood actually stepped in and corrected this to a mathematically sound, legally defensible reality. Because the true threat, it's the live Section 301 10% tariff on Canadian goods entering the U.S. But, and here's the kicker, if you have verified proof of a CUSMA exemption, you don't pay it. By generating a $125 certificate of origin, the math yields a rock-solid 160% ROI on the document itself. I mean, if your load has a declared entry value of just $1,250, that certificate pays for itself instantly. Anything above that is just pure margin.
Moving on to Section 2, the digital shift. 2 companies, 1 truck. To actually build this data business, 905 Wood has to completely eliminate the biggest point of failure at intake. And that failure point, it's human judgment. You literally cannot rely on human eyes at the bin. They call it the visual fallacy. Basically, weathered, totally clean pine often looks exactly like treated wood and vice versa. The whole system rests on one fundamental assumption. A single human glance is probably wrong. And that is exactly why an AI-driven digital refinery workflow is absolutely required before a single splinter of wood ever gets loaded onto a truck.
Right, which brings us to Section 3, the AI workflow, deep reject, and the model council.
Let's look at how this automated verification engine actually works. The AI escalation path starts right there at the bin. The field app camera gives a really simple token verdict. Green means you're good to proceed, amber means uncertain, and red is a hard reject. Now, if it flags amber, the data gets sent up to a cloud model council for consensus. And if the models up there still can't agree, the system triggers what they call a deep reject. It absolutely refuses to guess. Instead, it pushes those high-stakes loads to physical chemistry sensors, things like X-ray fluorescence and near-infrared sensors, to read the actual elemental chemistry of the wood. It's not flipping a coin, right? It is demanding objective, scientific truth.
Next up is Section 4, Industrial Clarity, Designing for the Subpoena.
We really need to talk about the UI and UX philosophy here, because it's fascinating. In this highly regulated world, being boring is actually a massive feature. They call this industrial clarity. Look, when your actual end audience is a strict customs officer at the border or an underwriter who's pricing risk, they do not want flashy graphics. They want a screen that is deliberately boring, black and white, and basically fax legible. The golden rule they design by: if a screen can't survive a subpoena, it is the wrong screen. Explainable compliance is a legal object, not just a pretty interface. And to maintain that level of clarity, the software architecture strictly separates the user experiences. On one side, you've got the super fast, operator-facing field app at the bin, which works totally offline with that simple green, amber, red verdict. On the other side, completely decoupled, is the heavy orchestration control tower running over at agent.95wood.com. That is where all the compliance state, the regulatory dashboards, and the final document library are managed. The operator doesn't need to see all that heavy orchestration, and the auditor definitely doesn't need to see the raw field app.
Let's jump to Section 5, the hardware roadmap and claim discipline in action.
Here we see the AI edge stack powering that field app, guided by the strict internal rule. Tense is a fact-check tool. You build absolute trust through total transparency by openly stating that their current setup runs on the Pixel 10 Pro with Android 16 today, and that they are actively operationalizing toward the Google Pixel 11 Pro with Android 17 using the Light RT AI stack features for tomorrow. They avoid making any false claims about present capabilities. It's all about marketing only what you can actually prove today. By separating what's live right now from the massive tech leaps coming tomorrow, they maintain just bulletproof claim discipline.
And finally, Section 6, the data catalog, realizing the value.
Let's dive into the actual SaaS application products that shift 95wood's value completely away from standard trucking and into high-margin data. These specific SKUs prove they're selling an explainable compliance and trust product that competitors just cannot replicate over a weekend. We're talking about request for quote workflows leading to a $125 certificate of origin that automatically defends the border crossing. You've got a zero-levy report card proving waste diversion. There's decoupled billing, offering a category-verified invoice. Plus, programmatic access like the Forest Edge Scope 3 API and B2B data feeds. And ultimately, a royalty cut on every single carbon removal certificate minted. The true value isn't the physical wood, it is the provenance data.
And the ultimate realization of all that data is right here. 905wood doesn't just verify the wood. They actually auto-generate the rigorous output PDF documentation and paperwork required for the Puro.Earth biocarbon market. Because they track the exact lineage from a specific bin all the way through that physical AI workflow, they can automatically output the project descriptions, the baseline additionality, and the stakeholder templates required to mint carbon credits. This exact SaaS application service is what secures Ontario's industrial leadership in the Canadian circular bioeconomy.
So, as you think about the future of this massive Ontario-Michigan waste corridor and this incredible transition of chaotic physical waste into high-purity data, ask yourself this. Whoever owns the bridge owns the toll on every crossing. In this huge shift to a circular bioeconomy, who is going to own the ultimate verification standard?